You know that feeling?
Yeah.
That very specific, visceral feeling you get the moment you step off the busy street and push through those heavy glass double doors of a bank.
Oh, I know it well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sensory shift.
It is. The noise of the city just cuts out, and it gets incredibly quiet.
So quiet.
And the air conditioning is always set to, I don't know, Arctic for some reason. The floors are polished so bright you can practically see your reflection in the marble, and everyone inside they're whispering.
It's almost church-like. It really is.
Yeah.
A kind of cathedral of finance.
Exactly. And you're standing there, maybe clutching a little crumpled ticket with a number on it, number 42, please wait. And you're trying to channel your inner responsible adult. You're trying to do that thing people call adulting.
It is a performance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, really, you want to project this aura of absolute competence.
Yes.
You want to look like you know exactly how interest rates work, and that you definitely check your credit score every week, even if you're strictly there because you washed your debit card in the laundry again.
For the third time this year.
Right.
But while your face is saying, I am a calm, functioning member of society, your internal monologue is it's screaming.
Oh, yeah.
It's saying, please don't ask me a hard question. Please don't use a word I don't know. Please don't let me mess this up.
And that anxiety.
Yeah.
That baseline anxiety is high enough when you're doing this in your native language. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody likes going to the bank. It's inherently stressful.
No, this is sure.
But now, imagine doing that in a second language.
It amps the pressure up to 11 instantly.
It really does. Because this isn't like ordering a coffee. If you mess up your coffee order, you get oat milk instead of almond. It's annoying, maybe a little embarrassing, but life goes on.
Right. No big deal.
This is your money. This is your rent. This could be your life savings. The stakes feel incredibly high because, frankly, they are.
And that environment, that formal, high-stakes, quiet, polished environment is exactly what we are unpacking today. We have a fascinating stack of material here focused on what I'm calling survival banking English.
I love that title, Survival English, because it really does feel like survival in the moment, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. But I want to be super clear about our mission statement right up front. We are not discussing economic theory today. We aren't going to talk about the stock market or hedge funds or, the intricacies of cryptocurrency and blockchain.
No, absolutely not. We're leaving the Wolf of Wall Street stuff at the door. This is practical.
This is about the nuts and bolts of getting things done without sweating through your shirt.
Yeah.
We're looking at a source specifically designed for this. A daily English chat session between two personas, Liam and Sophie. Liam is the curious learner who makes the mistakes we're all afraid of making.
He's our stand-in.
He is, and Sophie is the teacher who corrects them.
And what I love about this source material is that it highlights a really specific kind of invisible problem, which is that banks, they have their own vocabulary. It's almost a secret dialect.
A dialect, that's an interesting way to put it.
I think it is. It's a professional register. If you try to use street English or, just translate directly from your own language, you don't just sound casual.
Sure.
You can actually cause some serious misunderstandings.
Okay.
Or, as we'll see later in the deep dive, you can accidentally sound like you're robbing the place.
Which is definitely a misunderstanding we want to avoid.
To put it mildly. Yes.
So the goal for this deep dive is to build a survival kit. We're going to extract the absolute essentials, the phrases, the tone, the specific words you need to open accounts, fix broken cards, and handle your money like a pro.
It's about moving from that feeling of panic to a feeling of control. It's about knowing the code so you can hack the system.
So let's crack this code. Let's start with what the source material identifies as the absolute most important adjustment a learner needs to make. It's not even a specific vocabulary word, really. It's a shift in your entire vibe.
Right. This is what we might call the golden rule of tone. It's fundamental.
In the source, Liam, our learner persona, he tries to say he wants to open a bank account. And he says, quote, I want open account.
I want open account.
Oof.
Be honest. How does that land for you when you hear it?
It hurts my ears a little bit. It's grating. It's just very blunt.
Sophie, the teacher in the source, describes this perfectly. She calls it robot English.
Robot English. That is such a vivid and accurate description.
It is. I want open account. Why is that robot English? What makes it feel so mechanical?
Well, think about how a machine communicates, right? It's purely functional. It conveys the raw data. Subject, I, verb, want, object, account. It gets the meaning across, sure. I mean, if you said that to a teller, they would probably know what you need.
They'd figure it out.
They'd figure it out. But it strips away all the humanity. It strips away the social lubrication that makes a conversation work. It feels
Yeah.
mechanical, blunt.
And in a bank, blunt is not a good look. No. Banks are formal institutions. They run on procedure, hierarchy, and, well, politeness. When you walk in and use that robot English, you're kind of clashing with the culture of the room.
You're out of sync.
You are. You're signaling, I don't know the rules here.
Yeah.
You're signaling that you are an outsider.
And psychologically, that must put the bank staff on edge, doesn't it? Even if it's just a little bit.
It does. It makes the transaction feel aggressive rather than cooperative. It sets a bad tone for everything that follows. It's like starting a chess game by knocking over your opponent's king.
So what is the fix? The source gives us a magic phrase, a phrase that basically unlocks all formal interactions in English, not just in the bank.
I'd like to.
Short for, I would like to.
Precisely. I'd like to. It's the secret key.
I want to dig into this for a second because it seems so simple. It feels almost too simple. Why is this small change, just changing I want to I'd like, so powerful? Why does the source call it soft and respectful? Is it just about grammar?
It's grammar doing social work. That's what it is. It's all about the conditional tense, that little word would. See, I want is a demand. It's immediate. It's direct. It's what a toddler says when they see a cookie. I want cookie.
Right.
It puts the listener in a position of servitude. It implies, my desire is the only thing that matters, so give it to me.
Right. It's very egocentric. I want my needs first.
Exactly. But I would like implies a condition. It implies a request. It acknowledges that the other person has a choice, even if in reality it's their job and they don't really have a choice. It creates a buffer.
It softens the whole interaction.
It softens it. It says, if it is possible and if you are willing, this is my preference. It's collaborative from the very first word.
It's amazing how much work one little word like would is doing there. It's completely changing the power dynamic of the conversation.
It's doing some very heavy lifting. In the source, Sophie points out that this is perfect for formal places. So instead of the robot saying open account, the polite customer says, I'd like to open an account.
Let's just listen to the difference in our heads. Imagine you're the bank teller. You've been standing there all day. Customer A walks up, open account, versus customer B, hi, I'd like to open an account.
The first one sounds like a command from a boss, or maybe a kidnapper. It's an order. The second one sounds like the start of a relationship. And that's what banking is, in a way. It's a relationship based on trust.
That's a great point.
You build that trust with your language. It starts there.
And it's not just for opening accounts, right? This applies to everything.
Oh, no, this is the master key. This is your skeleton key for all polite English. I'd like to deposit some money. I'd like to withdraw some cash. I'd like to speak to a manager. It works for everything.
So if you take nothing else away from this deep dive, it's that phrase. If you walk into a bank, or really any service counter, a hotel, a ticket booth, even a bakery, delete I want from your brain, just for that interaction.
Erase it.
And replace it with I'd like to.
It is the single highest return investment you can make in your spoken English. It immediately marks you as a polite, culturally competent speaker.
Okay, so we've established the tone. We are polite. We are respectful. We are using the conditional tense. We're not robots. Now we need to actually move some money around.
The mechanics of banking. The actual actions.
Right. And the source material highlights two key verbs here. And again, this is about knowing the professional lingo versus just, describing the action in simple terms. We're talking about deposit and withdraw.
These are the pillars of banking. You're either putting it in or you're taking it out. It's the two fundamental movements.
Let's start with putting it in. The source says the phrase is, I'd like to deposit some money.
Yes. And notice again, we're using our magic phrase, I'd like to. We aren't dropping that. But let's look at the word deposit.
Right. Why that word? Could I just say, I'd like to put money in my account? I mean, that makes sense.
You could. It's not grammatically wrong. If you said, I want to put money in, the teller would understand you. They wouldn't kick you out or anything.
Okay.
But the source emphasizes that deposit is the natural bank word. It's the correct tool for the job.
So it's about signaling that you belong there, that you know the rule.
Exactly. Put money in is what you do with a piggy bank, You put a coin in the slot. It sounds a bit childish or at least very informal. Deposit is a financial transaction.
It sounds more official.
It does. It implies a record. It implies security. When you use the word deposit, you are elevating the conversation to the professional level of the bank worker. You're meeting them where they are.
It's like wearing a suit instead of sweatpants. You're dressing up your language to match the environment.
That is a perfect analogy. And honestly, it helps the teller. Their computer screen, the software they're using, it probably has a big button that says deposit.
Huh. That's a great point.
So if you say the word that matches the button, you just make their life easier. You're speaking the language of their interface.
That makes so much sense. Now let's flip it. Taking money out. This is where the source material gets really funny, but also really serious about a specific and very common mistake.
This is the danger zone.
Yeah.
This is where things can go wrong fast.
The host in the source, Liam, talks about the mistake of saying, "Give me money from my account."
Give me money. Oh, no.
I mean, let's play this out. If I'm a bank teller, I'm sitting behind the glass and someone walks up, maybe they look a little nervous, maybe they're sweating a bit because of the language barrier, and they look me in the eye and say, "Give me money."
My hand is going toward the silent alarm button.
Yeah.
Immediately. No hesitation.
Absolutely. The source points out that this phrasing sounds like a robbery. It's aggressive. It's a demand. And in the context of a bank, which is already a high-security environment, words that sound like demands for cash are, let's just say, problematic.
It's all about the context, right? If I say, give me money to my brother who owes me $5, it's fine. It's casual. It's a joke. But in a bank, you are in a place where people actually demand money with threats. You do not want to sound like those people, not even by accident.
So context is everything. In a bank, you need to use the specific verb that describes the authorized removal of funds. And that verb is withdraw.
Withdraw.
I'd like to withdraw some money.
It's safe. It's clear. It describes a process, not a demand. It says, I am the owner of these funds and I'm choosing to remove them. It's an action of ownership.
But there's a trap here, isn't there? The source spends a moment on the pronunciation of this word because it's a little tricky for learners.
It is. It's a bit of a phonetic minefield, this one. English has these compound words that look like two words just glued together. With, draw.
Right.
And the natural instinct for many learners, especially if they're coming from languages with different stress patterns, is to hit that first part hard. Withdraw.
Right. I'd like to withdraw money.
I hear this all the time. But the source makes a specific point to correct this. The stress must be on the second syllable. It's withdraw.
Withdraw. Let me say that a few times. Withdraw.
Exactly. Listen to the rhythm. I'd like to withdraw some money. It's smoother. It has a flow. If you say withdraw, it sounds choppy. Well, it sounds foreign. When you hit that stress on the second syllable, it just melts into the sentence.
And there's also that thuh sound in the middle, right? That can be tough for a lot of people, the sound.
It is tough. The thuh followed immediately by the D of draw. It requires a bit of gymnastics with the tongue. You have to go from the teeth right back. But focusing on the stress really helps. If you focus on getting that draw part right, the with becomes softer and almost easier to slide over.
It's funny how much stress patterns change perception. If you get the stress wrong, people might still understand you, but it takes them an extra millisecond to process it. It creates a little bit of friction.
That's the cognitive load we want to reduce. That's a great way to put it. You want the bank teller to understand you instantly, effortlessly. Using the correct stress on withdraw helps that happen. It signals fluency, even if your grammar isn't perfect somewhere else in the sentence.
Okay, so we're depositing, we're withdrawing, with the stress on the draw. But now we have to enter the world of plastic. Because let's be honest, how often do we actually handle cash these days?
Very, very rarely. Most of my banking is digital or with a card.
Me too.
Mhm.
Usually the problem is with the card, the little rectangle of doom.
The plastic lifeline. Yes.
The source outlines two very different scenarios for card problems, and it's absolutely crucial to get the vocabulary right because the consequences and the bank's reaction are totally different.
This is a classic mix-up area for learners, and getting it wrong can be costly.
Okay, so scenario one. The card is physically broken. Maybe the chip doesn't work. Maybe your dog chewed it. Maybe you sat on it and it snapped. Or maybe you just can't find it at the moment, but you're pretty sure it's in your house somewhere.
Right. So in this case, your money is safe. Nobody else has the card. It's just a logistics issue. You just need a new physical object.
So what's the phrase the source gives us for that?
The phrase is, I need to replace my debit card. Replace implies swapping the old one for a new one. The account number usually stays the same. The money sits there. It's just, hey, this plastic tool is broken. Can you give me a new tool?
Simple enough. I'd like to replace my card.
Perfect, polite, clear, and accurate.
But then there's scenario two, the high stress scenario. The card is gone. Maybe it was stolen from your bag. Maybe you left it on the bar counter last night. You don't know where it is and you don't know who has it.
This is where replace isn't enough. In fact, it's the wrong word. This is an emergency.
Why is it the wrong word?
Because if you just say, I'd like to replace my card, the bank might say, okay, no problem, we'll mail you one in 5-7 business days.
Oh, no.
And in those 5-7 days, a thief is using your old card to buy $500 worth of electronics online.
That's a scary thought. You need immediate action.
You need to shut it down.
Yeah.
So the source gives us the critical safety phrase, I lost my card and I'd like to block it.
Block it.
That word block is powerful. It's a command for immediate action. It means stopping all function. Right now. It puts a digital wall around your money.
It's interesting. This source makes a really clear distinction here. You have to be explicit. If you just say, I need a new card, the teller is thinking logistics. If you say block it, they immediately switch to security protocol.
Exactly. Words trigger actions.
Yeah.
Replace triggers a mail delivery process. Block triggers a security freeze. You need to know which trigger to pull. And I'd add, if you are ever in doubt, if you think maybe you lost it but you're not sure, always use block. Better safe than sorry.
Block is the panic button.
It is.
Press it. Now, speaking of cards not working, there's a fascinating little anecdote in the source material about Liam, the learner, trying to explain a broken card. This leads to what I'm calling the expired milk theory.
I love this analogy. It's so helpful for memory because it's so visual and, well, a little bit gross.
So Liam tells the story of going to a bank. He puts his card in the machine and it doesn't work. It gets rejected. He goes to the teller and says, my card is not working. I think it is broken. Which, honestly, that sounds fine to me.
It's understandable. It's logical. A native speaker would know what he means.
But the teller responds with, it might be expired. And Liam's confused. He doesn't know this word in this context.
Right. He probably knows expired for food, maybe, or he might not know it at all. It's not a beginner word.
So Sophie, the expert in the source, she explains it by comparing a bank card to a carton of milk.
Right. If you look at a carton of milk, it has a date printed on it. After that date, the milk goes bad. It's expired. If you drink expired milk, you get sick.
And if you use an expired card?
The machine spits it back out. It's dead to the system. The transaction gets sick.
It's financial milk?
Financial milk. But here is the key insight from the source for learners. People often try to translate this concept from their native language using words like finished.
My card finished.
Or my card ended. Or my card is over.
Or even, my card is dead.
My card is dead is very dramatic. It sounds like you're holding a funeral for the plastic.
Alas, poor Visa card. I knew him well.
Exactly. But in English banking and in legal documents in general, the only correct adjective for a document that has passed its validity date is expired.
So it's a strictly defined term. It's not flexible.
It is not. You could have an expired license, an expired passport, an expired visa, an expired debit card. It's a specific category of too old to use.
So don't say, my card finished. It just sounds a little childish. You should say, I think my card has expired.
It makes you sound educated. It shows you understand the life cycle of the document. You understand that it had a validity period and that period has now concluded. It's precise.
Moving on. We've handled the cash. We've handled the plastic. Now we need to talk about information. The language of status.
This is where banking has really moved in the modern era, right? We don't touch money as much as we track it. We are mostly looking at numbers on a screen.
The source brings up a few key terms here. The first one is, of course, balance.
Ideally, a high one.
We can all hope. But the phrase is, I'd like to check my balance.
And again, I'd like to. It's everywhere. But look at the alternative here. The source warns against saying things like, check my money number, or how much money do I have?
Check my money number sounds adorable. It really does. It sounds like something a 5-year-old would say. Mommy, can you check my money number?
It does. It's cute, but it's not adulting. Balance is the accounting term. It refers to the equilibrium of the account. All the credits minus all the debits. It's the bottom line.
So asking for your balance is the professional way to ask, am I broke yet?
Precisely. And it's the word the teller is looking for on their screen.
And how do we see that balance over time? We look at a statement.
A statement, yes.
The source defines this simply as a paper or digital document showing your history. But I'm curious about the word itself. Why statement?
That's a great question. Think about the word in other contexts. A statement is something you say, I made a statement to the police, or the president made a statement. It implies a formal declaration of truth.
Ah, okay, I see where you're going with this.
In banking, a statement is a record of truth. It states the facts of your account for a certain period. It's not just a list, it's a formal official record.
Which is why I need a bank statement is such a common request for serious life events like renting an apartment, getting a mortgage, applying for a visa.
Exactly. They don't want a screenshot of your app. They want the official statement.
You can't just say, I need a list of my money. You need the official document with the official name.
Precision matters, especially when legal or financial decisions are on the line.
And what is on that statement? What are the little pieces that make up the whole history, transactions?
The atom of banking.
I love that description, the atom of banking. That's perfect.
It really is. Every single movement, buying a coffee, getting your salary, paying a monthly fee, an interest payment, every single one is a transaction.
Yeah.
It's the base unit of all finance.
The source gives a really great example sentence here for troubleshooting, and I want to pick it apart because I think it's brilliant. The sentence is, I think there's a mistake in this transaction.
This is a masterclass in conflict resolution. Seriously.
How so? Explain that.
Well, let's analyze the alternative. Imagine you see a charge you don't recognize on your account. Maybe the bank charged you a fee twice by mistake. You're angry.
I'm furious. It's my money.
The natural emotional instinct is to go in and say, you made a mistake, or this is wrong, or worse, you stole my money.
Right, emotional, accusatory, aggressive.
Exactly. And what happens when you do that? The bank teller immediately gets defensive. Their walls go up. It becomes you versus them, a conflict.
But saying, I think there's a mistake in this transaction.
It creates emotional distance.
Yeah.
It's so clever. You aren't blaming the person in front of you. You're pointing at the data point, the transaction, and suggesting there will be an error. It's objective. It keeps the temperature of the conversation low.
That is such a good point. Using the word transaction makes it a technical problem to be solved, not a personal fight.
Exactly. It depersonalizes the conflict. It becomes, let's look at this transaction together. It puts you and the banker on the same side of the table looking at the data. It transforms you from an angry customer into a collaborative problem solver.
That is a huge psychological shift, and it comes from just one well-chosen vocabulary word.
That's the power of the right vocabulary. It's not just about meaning. It's about managing relationships.
We've been talking a lot about what you, the listener, the learner, should say. We've armed you with, I'd like to deposit, withdraw, balance, statement. But a conversation is a two-way street.
It is, and honestly, for many learners, the speaking part isn't even the scariest part.
No. What is then?
No, the scariest part is the listening.
Because you can rehearse what you want to say. You can practice, I'd like to deposit in the mirror for an hour until you sound like James Bond.
You can.
But you can't control what the bank worker throws back at you.
That unpredictability is the source of the anxiety. You're terrified they're going to ask something complex like, are you interested in our high-yield diversified portfolio options with variable interest rates?
Yeah.
And you'll just stand there with your mouth open.
The deer in the headlights look.
Exactly. However, the source material makes a really reassuring point here. The bank worker is running a script, too.
This is crucial to realize.
It is. They aren't going to ask you about your philosophy on life. They aren't going to ask you about the weather, usually. They have a job to do. They have a procedure. And they repeat that procedure dozens of times a day.
So we can predict what they're going to ask. The source breaks down a mini role play to show this pattern. Let's reconstruct that a bit to show how boring and therefore safe it really is.
Okay, let's do it. Boring is our friend here.
It starts with the worker. You walk up to the counter. They usually open with, how can I help you today? Or, next, please.
Which is your cue. That's the green light for your prepared phrase, the one you've been practicing. Hi, I'd like to open an account.
Then the worker has to ask a standard question. They need to verify who you are. So in the source, it's, do you have ID?
ID, identification. This is universal. It's going to happen 99% of the time. So a pro tip here for you. Before you even walk up to the counter, have your passport or license in your hand. Be ready.
Don't be the person digging through your bag for 5 minutes while the line behind you lets out a collective, audible sigh.
Please don't be that person. Be prepared. It's part of that fake confidence we'll talk about.
So you hand over the ID. The next standard question in the source roleplay is, please fill out this form.
Fill out. That's the key phrasal verb. Or sometimes fill in. It means to complete the paperwork. You know what's coming. Grab the pen chained to the counter and start writing your name.
And finally, they might ask a service question like, would you like a debit card with that?
Simple yes or no question. Easy.
What's so comforting about analyzing this role play is how predictable it is. It's not a creative writing class.
Boring is good. Boring is safe. It's a series of if-then statements. If you say open account, then they ask for ID. If you say deposit, then they ask for the account number. You can practically map this out on a flowchart.
Pattern recognition builds confidence. You aren't walking into a chaotic unknown. You're walking into a script. You just need to know your lines.
Exactly. And you need to listen for those keywords. ID, form, sign here, card, receipt. If you can just catch those nouns, you can usually figure out the rest of the sentence, even if you don't understand every single word.
But let's be real for a second. Things do go wrong. We can't pretend every transaction is perfect.
No. Life happens. Technology fails.
Sometimes the computer crashes. Sometimes you forget your PN. Sometimes the numbers don't add up. And sometimes they say something you truly, genuinely do not understand.
And that is when the panic truly sets in. That's the moment when the script breaks.
The source addresses this head-on in our final segment. Troubleshooting and overcoming fear.
Right. Because the fear is the real enemy here, not the bank teller.
Liam, the learner in our source, he describes that feeling of just staring blankly when there's a problem, that deer in the headlights look.
It's a freeze response.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is trying to process the language barrier and the financial problem simultaneously, and it locks up. It's cognitive overload.
So we need a universal break glass in case of emergency phrase. A phrase that buys you time and gets help without you having to know all the technical details. The source gives us, there's a problem with my account.
It's so simple,
Yeah.
but it's so effective. Notice what it doesn't do. It doesn't try to explain the technical details immediately. It doesn't try to diagnose the issue.
It just flags it. It's like raising a little red flag.
Right. There's a problem with my account. It invites the banker to investigate. It puts the ball in their court. They will then look at the screen and tell you what the problem is, usually in simpler terms.
And then there's the psychological advice from Sophie, the teacher. She says something that I think applies to every aspect of language learning, not just banking. She says, fake confidence is still confidence.
I love this line. It's so true. Fake confidence is still confidence.
Unpack that for us. How does that work in a bank? What does that look like?
Well, think about the dynamic between two humans. If you walk up to the counter looking terrified, hunching your shoulders, whispering, looking at the floor,
Yeah.
the bank teller unconsciously tenses up.
Okay.
They anticipate a difficult, slow interaction. They might speak faster just to get it over with, or they might speak loudly and slowly like you can't hear them, which is even worse.
Just makes you more nervous and feel smaller.
It's a negative feedback loop. But if you walk up, stand tall, make eye contact, and deliver your prepared chunk, I'd like to withdraw some money, clearly, and with the proper stress on withdrawal.
Even if your heart is pounding and your palms are sweating.
Even if you are terrified inside, even if you want to run away, the external signal you are sending is one of competence. And the teller receives that signal and relaxes. They speak normally to you. They treat you like a capable adult.
And that reaction from them makes you actually feel more capable.
Exactly. You hack the feedback loop. By acting confident, you get treated with respect, which in turn gives you real confidence. It's a virtuous cycle.
So the survival kit isn't just vocabulary, it's also a costume. You put on the costume of the confident English speaker for 5 minutes.
Yes. And a huge part of that costume is memorizing the chunks. I'd like to block my card, check my balance, so you don't have to construct grammar in real time under pressure. You just fire the chunk.
That frees up your brain space to listen and breathe.
That is such a crucial distinction. Don't try to build sentences word by word at the counter. Have the pre-built phrases ready to go.
Don't bake the cake at the counter. Bring the cake with you.
Exactly. The source also encourages us by saying that English improves with use, not just understanding.
This is so important.
It is. You can listen to podcasts about banking for 10 years. You can study the word withdraw in a textbook until you can spell it backward. But the first time you actually walk into the bank and successfully deposit cash using these phrases, that is when the magic happens.
Your brain locks that knowledge in a completely different way.
The experience cements the language. It attaches the word deposit to the physical action of handing over money, the sound of the counting machine, the smell of the bank. You can't get that from a book.
So you have to feel the fear and do it anyway.
You have to go to the bank.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here. We've gone from the psychology of the marble floor to the specifics of stressing the second syllable of one particular verb.
We have. We've built a full kit.
Let's do a rapid-fire recap, a checklist for our listener to mentally pack in their pocket before they head out the door.
Let's do it. The pre-bank checklist.
Item number 1, the golden rule of tone.
I'd like to. Never, I want. Be polite, be soft, be relational.
Item number 2, the language of money movement.
Deposit, to put in. Withdraw. Stress on de-draw,
Yeah.
to take out. And please, never ever say, "Give me money," unless you want to explain yourself to the police.
Item number 3, handling card trouble.
Replace if it's broken or worn out. Block if it's lost or stolen. And remember the milk. If it's old, it's expired, not finished.
Item number 4, the language of status and information.
Balance for your total amount. Statement for your official history. And transaction for any specific movement, especially if there's a problem.
And finally, the mindset you walk in with.
Fake it till you make it. Use your prepared chunks. Listen for the teller's script. ID, form, sign. And remember that mistakes are just part of the process. They're normal.
You know, it strikes me that while we've been talking about banking, we're really talking about something much bigger. We're talking about autonomy.
How so?
Well, when you can handle your own financial business in a foreign country without needing a translator, without needing a friend to come hold your hand, that's a huge level of independence. It fundamentally changes how you see yourself in that new culture.
It absolutely does. It moves you from being a visitor or a tourist to being a resident. You're participating in the system. You have skin in the game. You belong.
So, to you, our listener, you have the tools, you have the phrases. Next time you need to go to the bank, don't put it off. Don't dread it. Treat it as a field test.
Walk in there and test your "I'd like to." See how it feels. See what happens.
And this is just one piece of the puzzle, right? Today it's the bank, but tomorrow it might be the pharmacy, or a job interview, or dealing with a landlord.
The survival English approach applies everywhere. Every situation has its own secret script and its own essential vocabulary.
Exactly. Now that you can survive the bank, what about those other challenges? We've got deep dives planned for all of them, so keep watching the rest of the videos on this channel. Build your survival kit for every part of real life. Because the goal isn't just to speak English, the goal is to live your life in English.
Well said.
Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.